All right, y'all, so here it go. Now, I've been mapping out how I wanted my interior to look for like years. It's definitely not finished, but it's starting to take shape of what one day I would want. So this truck started off with a bench seat, and it was like a bench leather seat, but it wasn't one that you'd find in your usual C1500. So I went and got the captain's chairs because I knew eventually I'd want a shifter with captain's chairs. So this is the center console I have, which some of these consoles, I forgot what years it are, what years it is. The console is one complete piece that goes up to the dash. This is the one that actually splits in two. So I used the half of it because I knew I wanted the other space to be taken up by the shifter, because I always said, like, I don't care what it is, but one day I want a shifter. I want a floor shifter. So I mocked it up to get it to happen. But now it's finally time to actually hook it up, because as you can see, that's the cable. It's finally time to hook it up and actually get it to function. So this is the one I went with. We'll get more of a look at it, but it's the B&M and B&M ProStick. And the thing is, just like everything else in my car, I really think when I'm doing mods about serviceability. So if I can get things to come apart like a puzzle, then that's fantastic. So the way that I had this made out, I'm a big guy, so I definitely need somewhat of the height, but I also need some of the, what was I gonna say? I'm also in a confined space with that height needed with the shifter. So not sure if you can see it, but I actually notched the center console out, so that way that this can kind of recess into the console a bit to give me the clearance that I need from the dash. All right, so here we are, driver's side. Hop on in and kind of give you a better idea of what I mean when I mention like having the clearance. So this shifter comes with, I believe, like a pre-installed, what is that called? It's a pre-installed 3-gear plate. I swapped it out already, put in the 4-gear plate. You can definitely find videos of that online. So it's going to take me a bit to kind of get the sequence of this thing down packed so that I can like do it quick, you know, when trying to go as fast as possible. But so this is all the way back in 1st gear. Second gear is just a push up. 3rd gear, you pull the trigger to advance to the next gear, and you can't go anywhere once you do advance to the 3rd unless you let go of the trigger. And then 4th is just another push after you let go of the trigger. And then after you go from that point, you know, you go on to your what the heck is that? Neutral, and it has a reverse lockout, which is kind of like a, you have to push this lever here, and now I can drop it into neutral. Well, I'm sorry, park. And I have about maybe an inch, well, I would say an inch, but I have a screw missing here of clearance, so that way it doesn't get stuck or anything like that, and I can go into park no problem. So yeah, so now I'm going to show you what I mean by I try to have things serviceable and kind of come apart like a puzzle to make it easier to service. So in this case, there's multiple ways I can go about taking this off so I can swap out the cable, because this is a 5-foot cable that comes with it, not long enough for me in this application, so I had to order the 8-foot. So now these pins here pretty much is what is going to release my shifter from the podium. So you'll see what I mean in a bit, but here's the actual stand, which is 7 inches tall. Then I have the quick release plate bolted to the stand, and then you sit your shifter on and then put the pins in, and now that's locked onto the quick release. So literally, to take this thing off, I just pull these pins out. Okay. All right, so that's one pin in the back. The front pin is giving me a problem. Probably because I got to squeeze in the little buttons on the other side or something. But I only got one hand. Give me a sec. All right, had to give it a little persuasion and tap it with the dang ratchet, but there it is. I probably got to freaking lube this thing up a little bit, these little bearings that push in, because this shifter's been in here for a long time without functioning. But anyway, all right, both pins are out, and the shifter comes off the quick release plate. So that's what I mean. So yeah, the quick release plate is bolted to the podium, just so I can just take the shifter off when need be, and have quick access. Now, as far as how I bolted it to the floor, I'll explain that shortly. All right, so here's a look at the shifter, you know, out of the car. So the thing is, I need to remove this cover off of here, and I'm probably gonna have to do it a couple times, but one is to actually replace the cable that it comes with. That's the 5 foot, and here is the 8 foot, and also the bracket that gets that pretty much secures the cable to the 4L60E, and also the 80E and 700 and so on and so forth. And here's the arm that goes on to the transmission, the gear control arm. So yeah, this goes onto the side, and I already mentioned that that's the cable. But in order to get this off, I'm gonna have to take this out here, this pin out, and that's just an Allen key. And once I use that, take the pin out, I'm also gonna have to use an Allen key to take these 2 silver bolts out. That's gonna allow the button bezel to come off, because that's the only way that this case will clear when you pull it off from the top. All right, so now that I got the cover off, like I said, I didn't have to unfish the wiring out, just had to take it off so I can manipulate it so that it can all fit out the top. But now to swap these cables out, I'm gonna take this pin, pull this pin out, that I can bring this the cable off the dowel, and then there's the 1 bolt down here that secures it, like with the plate to here. So once these are taken off, I'm probably gonna put it back in for like a rough mock-up, because they recommend installing, well, somewhat installing a shifter before you actually put the cable in. So I have to probably sit the shifter in place and open this thing up and start running it to figure out the linkage on the transmission, and probably bringing up through the floor, and then I'll attach it to here. All right, so here's the 8 foot cable, and the one thing that's kind of puzzling me a bit, so along with when I actually bolted this thing in the floor, once I mocked up the interior kind of how I wanted it and got the shifter in place, you guys will probably have an easier time, because me, I have a lot of extracurricular activities I do, so I had to have clearance back here between my amplifier and the center console. So yeah, so anyway, the thing that I'm trying to figure out is, once I made those holes, I also already pre-drilled a hole in the trans tunnel, kind of off to the side-ish, and it told me to drill it a certain width, but the thing is, this here, not sure how that's going to pass through. I tried to like walk this around to see if there was a certain keyway for it to come out, but I was wrong, it doesn't. And I'm thinking maybe I can move that boot and take both nuts off and washers, and maybe this end will go into the hole, you know, from the top or something, but I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so here we are on the bottom side. Right there, I'm just going to take that bolt out, and well, before I take the bolt out, I'm just going to disconnect the factory cable, which I actually put this in like maybe a year ago, something like that, 2 years, because the other one was rusted out, but that's a part of the many problems that I have when I got this truck. But anyway, I'm going to unbolt this stuff, get the arm on. Once I get the arm on, I'm going to come back here. I have to cut the zip tie because I have some extra stuff going on here, and this factory plate has 2 bolts up at the top. I'm not sure exactly what they are. I have to feel around, see what they are, and I'm going to tuck this thing away because I'm always thinking something's going to go wrong. So what I'll probably do is just still have this hooked up, and well, not hooked up. I'm still going to have this here, but I'm going to tuck it away. So just in case something goes haywire, in case something goes haywire with my stuff, I'm going to still be able to fall back on something. So removing this bracket, boom, with whatever 2 bolts may be up top, and removing that, placing the arm on that will accept the cable. So when I mounted this shifter in the floor, it wasn't really much to it as far as the bottom part goes. So these are the bolts that are at the bottom, and as you can see, 1, 2 with washers, 3, 4, and that's what's holding the shifter down from here. Because once I did the mock-up up top and drilled holes, it pretty much is just me coming up under here, putting up the bolt and washer from the bottom, and doing the rest from the top. All right, so started taking some stuff apart. Here's the cable dangling here. I just took the clip out so that I could slide it out of that C bracket. What else did I do? Oh, and I took off the gear lever. And one thing I will definitely say that I did is you don't want to use the pressure, I guess you could say, how can I say this? Okay, so the lever goes on, the bolt goes on. When the bolt's tight, problem is you go to put a socket on it or a wrench or whatever, and when you go to turn it to loosen it, you are going to go in pretty much, I want to say to the left, lefty-loosey, obviously. When you do that, the lever coming this way is actually cycling your transmission through gears by coming down this way. So you have to stick a pry bar in here to hold the lever, and once you do that, then you can take a size 15 and break it loose. Because other than that, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on that, and you'll definitely mess something up with the transmission. So you just get some sort of a bar or pry or something to take the brunt of the force, and then screw it off. And other than that, that's it. All right, people. Got the factory bracket off, and it was a Torx bit. It was actually, to be exact, it was 40 Torx. And let's see, one was here up at the top, and one was there. That was a little more difficult to get to. I was trying to unplug the neutral safety switch just to get the harnesses out the way, but that was kind of giving me a problem. So I'm like, you know what, let me try to work around it. The worst, but anyway, that's off. And it seems like the other problem that I am running into is, here we go. So the way that this thing's supposed to go on, I guess you think of it like a little, like, hammer. If you think of it like a little hammer, the flat of the hammer goes to the front of the car. So it's going to go on like this. So here's the problem. Now that that's on that way, when I put the bolt on, I still have an excessive amount of play here. And then I realized the thickness of this bracket is thinner than the thickness of the factory bracket. Maybe somewhere in the instructions it says something about that, but I'm going to try to get a washer that's big enough to go over the bolt and put pressure on the new bracket. Okay, so now we got the bracket bolted on. The long side, you see, goes more forward, and the back side is what's kind of parallel with this little hole here. So as in which one, you see this is the last bolt pretty much on this side in the back left corner of the trans. It's going to be the third bolt up where it starts, and the fourth bolt up where the front one goes. And I just snugged it down back to similar pretty much to how they felt when I was turning it. Hopefully I don't have any trans leaks. That's just my luck. It actually comes with these spacers for both of these bolts, and the spacer goes pretty much between the bracket and the pan. But the thing is, I don't have a factory pan, which has a lot thinner of a flange. This pan, the Jegs pan, the flange is actually a lot thicker than factory. Plus, I have washers. So I'm going to take a shot at doing it without these spacers and see how that goes. Now, the front, you saw, I had to get crafty. got a big spacer that would actually go over over pretty much the everything to go flat up against the bracket, and one slightly smaller just so the bolt itself wasn't like going into the washer or anything like that. And now that's tight, it's not going to move, and it's about time to start trying to route the cable through the floor. Okay, so now we're back on the opposite side. The plan here is I really hope that I don't have to take out the passenger seat again. I mean, if I have to, I have to, whatever. But I'm hoping I don't have to, which is why I kind of pre-planned ahead of time. I'm gonna just take this mat out and try to pull the carpet back pretty much from up under the dash and pull it back enough just to expose this area right here, because this is where my hole already is. And then figure out how I'm going to plumb the wire through. So just to give you an idea of how I got this thing mounted and got it in position to where I wanted it. So what I did was, I mean, I of course started to build my vision, even though my seats are like trash. I dyed them. It didn't take too well, whatever, but started trying to build what I wanted for the future and perfect it as I go. So once I got everything set into place where everything needed to be, good amount of space from the back, and also had clearance when it was in full park from the dash itself. Once I got it home in that area, I held it in place and I drilled a hole through the floor here, literally through the hole that's inside of the bracket before the bolt was there, and also drilled the hole on this side. So once those two holes were drilled, then I just smoothed it out of the way, and I actually took the podium and put it on another flat piece of metal, and I drilled all 4 holes out. So that way I can just take the plate that was now a template, put it in place, and then drill the remaining back 2 holes out. So now all 4 holes matched. And once that was done, then I was good to go. All right, so here it is. I gained access. I didn't have to actually take the whole passenger seat out like I thought. I'm just hoping that this is going to be big enough to actually go through. If not, then I'm going to have to get the drill bit back out, make it even bigger again, and figure out what side of the cable is going to go through first. Alrighty, looks like my luck's changing. The hole was big enough, so this is what I ended up doing. So this is the side that actually had, like, you know, the side that goes to the transmission, that has the bolts and well, the nuts and the washers on it. I just took all of that off along with the rubber boost that's on here, and this is actually a 5-foot cable because I'm using this to test. And once I got it through, it went all the way in, and the bulk of it is, I want to say, this part here, and this cleared. Once this went in, I was like, okay, great, I'm in the money. So it's looking like I'm going to pass it in from the top side and start feeding it through to do the big loop that they recommend when doing this this style of, you know, shifter or whatever. All right, so here we are up on the opposite side. There's the cable right here coming through this side, and B&M actually tries to, they say that you want to avoid any harsh angles or bends or turns, like really harsh, just so the cable can run smoother, but it also lasts you longer before, I guess, it starts to give you problems. I mean, that's a little scary knowing that, but whatever. So now that I have it ran through, the goal is to pretty much, I'm coming down more so on the right side, passenger side of the trans tunnel, and it came down through the floor. Now it's supposed to come back and loop around the trans. I mean, there it is, but continue to loop around and then come back over to where the bracket is. So that way, that big loop there is actually what's going to make it run smoother. There isn't any harsh like U's or 90 degrees or nothing crazy like that. So now, I'm trying to see if you can actually see. Well, you might see a little speck of light right there. That speck of light is the hole that my wire well, cable is currently passing through. All right, so moved on ahead. May look like a lot has transpired, but I mean, I literally just kind of like just set this in place. It's not even like in there, well, secured in there. All I did was just mock up where the wire was coming through. Got my box cutter and just cut a slit. Not the cleanest. I mean, it could have been better. I'll know once I get all of this excess stuff from around it. But there it is in there. Hopefully it's not a big deal that it's not a super straight shot. Like I went from here, like I went pretty much from here directly forward. I'm hoping that it's okay that it is like offset a bit, because that would really suck. But here we are. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm pretty much gonna take this thing, take the cable. I gotta kind of pull some through. I gotta get it to sit where it's supposed to. And once I do that, I also have to get it pretty much pressed on the dowel. Got my little clip that I was supposed to have. I just have to put the clip in place, set this up to where it will line up with the hole down there. And from there, I'm gonna throw it in park. And once I throw it in park, I'm gonna go back under and start hooking up the linkage. Okay, so shifter is now in park. What's now? So yeah, shifter's now in park. That's bolted in the cable itself because that does not need to be off in order for the cover to go on. But the buttons do, so that's why I haven't put that back yet. So now that we got that right, so here's an explanation what's going on here. So here's our cable. It's definitely a bit long. I got to figure out a way to secure it. And it sucks because the thing is B&M doesn't sell anything between a 5-foot, which is what my shifter came with, and the 8-foot, which is the one that I have. So I'm just going to secure it up. Definitely enough of, you know, the loop action so it doesn't bind up or anything like that. And as far as this goes, now this is where we start getting into the linkage. It's not really complicated, but you have your nut, washer, nut. So to get this through the floor, as you saw, I took all of the accessories, the grommets, all that stuff off. So it was just the cable, fed it through. Now after you do that, before you actually put it through the bracket, you need to put at least one nut on, put on a washer, then insert it through the bracket. Then after you insert it through the bracket, then you put a washer on, and then the nut on the opposite side. That's pretty much what's going to hold this in place. I haven't tightened it up yet because I still got to get the rest of this right. Now, these are really important. Have to push these on back in place. Try not to lose them because this is what weather protects the inside of the wire casing. Same thing for here. And then at the end, what's funny about this tricky guy here is I thought it was just something that goes through, just passes through. Absolutely wrong. So this is what's going to go into the hole here for the shifter. Now it's going to go in the front hole. That's where they said it should go. And also it screws on. There's actually threads inside of this piece. So you have to thread it on and then pretty much keep playing with it and getting different positions. And once you find where it needs to be, you leave it there. And then you use the nut that's on the all the way at the end. You tighten that up, that holds it in place. Even though I don't really see it moving like that, but who knows. So now I'm just going to, that it's in park, I'm going to get this here where it's though it's in a good position. Neutral, not a whole bunch of tension on it, but it's in here. Okay, so now I actually tighten this up. Tighten this up here so it doesn't move. It's locked in. Went down here. Let's see if I can show you my cotter pin. Not sure if you can see it, but where are we at? Yep, so there we are. Cotter pin is in. I'm holding it in place so that piece is not going to move out. That is in, and I'm cycling through the gears fine from what it looks like. The indicator's showing me that, and just got to clean up a few things. The loop is here. like I said before, it definitely is quite a long ways, the loop. It's kind of like tucked up tight just because of how the cable's made. I don't 100% trust that, but I'm going to leave it for now until I get back under here. I'm probably just going to get like a loop eye with the flat tab and just put a self tapper in it just to kind of hold it up in there. It's not really holding any weight, so it's not a big deal. It's just kind of keeping it in place just in case. But yeah, I think that's wrapping it up. All right, peeps, I think we're in good shape. It's currently in park, and the cable's hooked up at the bottom. I tightened it up where it seemed like it was good at. We're going to find out. But now that this thing is sitting in place and it's in park, I'm just going to show y'all a fear that I had. But see, this is kind of like one of the newest vehicles I've ever owned, which is sad because it's a 96. But here is what I'm going to mention. So with my Caprice, which is a 91, and my Suburban, which is an 89, the things that what I was thinking about was how on the shift indicator, the gear indicator on the dash, there's like a cable that goes from the column itself. And as the column moves, it pulls that cable in the same direction. So your column moving as the shifter moves is what tells you what gear you're in. So I was like, oh shoot, man, now that I put the shifter in, oh wow, that really, it shows my dust. All right, ignore that. But yeah, I'm like, dang, now that I got this shifter in, I'm not going to be able to tell what gear I'm in from the dash anymore, which sucks. Wrong. Because this is a 96 and it is computer controlled with a neutral safety switch, it still will tell you. So I'm putting the key in, put it up a little bit. All right, so dial indicator's lit. Now, I'm going to go from park to, oh, what am I doing? All right, something's weird, hold on. Oh, just wasn't pulling hard enough. So now I'm in reverse. Looky here. Boom, reverse. So now I'm gonna go back into neutral. Neutral. I'm gonna go back into drive. Drive. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful, beautiful. So my dash still works. And now I'm gonna push it back up through the gears. And this is also a test just to make sure I'm running through the gears themselves. Neutral lockout switch. Alrighty then. So I think we're in business. Seems to me like it's working, man. Only way to tell is to test drive it. Alright, y'all. It's saying it's hooked up. See what's going on. It's kind of gonna feel unreal, man. So used to having a freaking column here and reaching for it, but no need anymore. So we in park. Reverse. Neutral, it works. And drive. We in business, baby. We in business. So you know what? Let me drop it down a little bit. Third. But you know what? You're not gonna be able to tell until I actually get a little pick up a little more speed than that. So all right, y'all. I ain't gonna get on it super heavy, but get on it. Here we go. Third. Wow. Still gonna take me a little bit to kind of get comfortable and figure out, you know, how to shift this thing smooth and quick. But it's just some regular driving. So here we are, first fourth I just press, and that's that. But the way it is, I guess the way that this 4-gear gate works on this, first, you know, it's just sitting in this gear. To get the second, just pop it up. Third, you got to pull the trigger, pop up, and then it stops. And then fourth, just pop it up one more time. This is big for me, man. I mean, I know, like, me and a few close friends, man, especially RVT Built, go check out his channel, man. But this is some of the small stuff that, like, we always talked about and kind of like didn't have, but you know, people's been doing it, so this is not a big deal for some people. But I always wanted a good floor shifter in my car, and I finally got one that functions. So I mean, enough of the, I guess, the sentimentals from me. It works, it's in, it feels smooth. Nothing left but to just see the test of time and how it works. But this is great, man. All right, y'all, I guess on to the next thing. See y'all next time around.